I mean, you just don't see such magnificent venues in the world of chess. One of the best I've ever seen. And the clocks have indeed been started. Magnus Shadubing all of his pieces.
Do you think
This is
we'll
not
see
good
another
luck for
London
him.
system?
This is usually not good luck for
Well, we got in English.
We got an English.
E3 on move 2. Not, in my view, an attempt to get much of an advantage. Usually as white, I'm always about the fianchetto with the English. So Magnus has played C4 and E3. And in this particular variation, I'm partial to the bishop.
Whoa!
Whoa.
Well,
Bishop
that's a
B4.
collective
Gasp.
gasp of surprise.
And why? Why?
Wow, it's very unconventional. It's just unexpected. I was expecting some D4 business. Stake the claim in the center, but instead we see G4, G5. Wow.
Okay.
But what I see from Magnus is he's switching his styles all the time. He started off against Vichy Anand. He played a very mellow game, and right now he's playing extremely aggressive chess. This is quite interesting to see from the world champion.
Well, we've just seen the move bishop takes c3, but now, check this out. G5 takes f6, leaving the bishop on c3 under attack by both pawns. Bishop drops back.
Yes, sir.
After 7 moves, you know, this G2 pawn has been transported magically to G7.
You've won the pawn. Happy days.
I'm going to go rook G8, and then I'm actually going to castle on the queen side.
Right.
I'm going to go D6, bishop E6, queen D7, castle on the queen side, and it seems my position is quite comfortable because I have the better development at the moment. As black,
you'll be lucky to get away. Just a second, Magnus will have to do. I think if white's going to fight, it's got to be fight for an advantage. I apologize. It's got to be somehow to control this f5 square. I know it looks ridiculous, but queen h5, rook g7, bishop h3, and on a good day, this knight is going to maneuver itself to the f5 square. Not necessarily that will bring any great rewards, but
Magnus didn't take the pawn.
But Magnus wasn't so
didn't go
greedy,
for the
so
pawn.
he
what did he do instead?
he took the bishop.
He took
recaptured
the bishop.
with
With?
the B pawn.
With b2.
Yeah, B2.
Okay.
C3.
Leaving the knight.
Knight to G8 was played.
Really? Not
Yes.
knight e4, but knight g8. Okay. You know me.
Needs support, right?
Yeah, well, h4, h6. Dare I say g6? What do you think? Is that
Well, I
a good
would,
pawn?
but,
Yeah. Well, it would fit the spirit that Magnus brought to this
Right.
position.
I mean, it's a difficult pawn to support. Otherwise,
It is.
you know.
It is. And I'm not a big fan of knight f3 because that simply might run into e5, e4, and I'll lose the pawn on g5. Well, what has Magnus in mind? What did he do?
He did play something, but
he played D4.
our boards are not getting updated.
Okay, he did play d4, and then came queen takes g5. Thank you for your pawn. d5, knight dropped back to d8, and this looks like a really, really bad Nimzo gone totally wrong for the world champion, Magnus Carlsen. Just pawn down and ugly double pawns to boot on c4 and c3.
Yeah,
Jovi,
I agree. It looks like a bad Nimzo, and the G pawn is missing as well. So
Yeah, even if you were to put the pawn on g2, I'm not sure I would wouldn't prefer black's position, Christian.
Well, black still has one big problem to solve, and that is the bishop on c8. If he manages to get the bishop out via b6, a5, bishop a6 potentially, and try for an exchange, then he would be perfectly fine. But at the moment, he's still struggling with the form of that bishop. Also, the knights are not in their ideal positions, and the king is not yet castled. So he has some problems to solve, but once he does that, the extra pawn is just an extra pawn.
Okay, this is really ugly. I'm looking at, I mean, look at the world champion has all of his pieces exactly at this moment on the first rank. That is not what we teach our pupils,
no, this
is
is
it?
completely anti-chess. But anyway,
He's played the move d6.
D6.
That was met by c6. I'm not 100% about that. Sure about that move, but knight f3 and queen f5. Have I got the right position?
And knight g5.
Pardon me. After knight f3, queen. How did the game continue?
Knight f3, queen f5, rook g1, knight e6.
Rook G1.
Defending the pawn on g7, e4 was played, another pawn sacrificed by the world champion, queen takes e4, bishop e3, queen f5, knight g5, and this is the position we have currently on the board. White is trying to exchange the knight on e6 so that he can get the pawn on g7, as well as create a powerful attack with the bishop pair. So again, this bishop on c8 still has huge problems. Nevertheless, black is 2 pawns up right
And
now.
we've just seen, and white is hoping to get in bishop d3, get some development for his sacrifice material. Knight f4 was, wow, confounding move. You're supposed to be developing your pieces that are undeveloped. I was expecting knight f6.
Wow.
We've seen a capture on f4, and this has got to be one of the strangest blitz games I can ever recall seeing. Rook g4, the queen.
Queen goes to f6.
And well, okay, I'm stupefied.
This
I'm okay. What to make of this, Christian? I'm speechless.
Once again, the Frenchman with 3 names, so he's grabbing the material.
Yes.
And he's grabbing the material, and the world champion is 2 pawns down. So if he doesn't prove his compensation in the next couple of moves, then he's definitely going to be in trouble. But once again, he still has that wedge pawn, I think you call it, on
Yes,
d6.
yes, the
A
wedgie.
very, very powerful pawn who could be potentially supported by the move c5 and blocking the bishop on c8. That's
Right.
key to the position. Also, the knight on g8 is not yet developed. He could potentially go knight f6, but I think after knight f6, Magnus's plan is to go rook takes g7.
Okay. Let's go over to Leuven and Maurice Ashley.
Yeah.
Maurice.
In another matchup, Levon Aronian and Jan Nepomniachtchi, this position, black is doing okay, just needs to develop his bishop. Instead, he played the move rook to b8, and instantly Levon saw the problem, g4, and now this queen cannot leave because of this pawn on e5. There's no way to protect. You play queen takes, then simply queen takes on e5 with check, picking off the rook, so g4 is simply a winning move. You could throw in something like knight f4 so you can get the queen, but that's just obviously a piece, so black is completely busted, so Levon should win this game.
And I'm still mystified by what the world champion is doing in this game. I mean, he came into the
Yes.
round with a lead. You kind of expected him to play his slow, grinding chess. But this move, g4, threw his back, and he had to follow it up with a second pawn sacrifice to maintain his initiative. And MVL is now saying, look, I'm 2 pawns up. I'm trying to trade pieces, and with the move knight f6.
Rook
he's
takes
hoping-
d7 was played.
Rook takes
G7.
G7. Wow.
Oh my goodness! Rook takes g7. So
Well,
there's
I'm not
no
sure.
knight e4 because of queen f7. Oops!
No, this looks very bad for black right now.
Seriously,
I think so.
queen takes, knight takes f6 check. Where should I move my king?
King d8.
D8. Okay.
Wow.
Well, the knight on f6 is in a great position to dominate the rook, but what is the body count? It's a pawn in exchange at the moment, right?
Right.
And how is white to get to black's
I'm going
king?
to try
It's a
to
bind,
get to your
isn't it?
pawn on e5. So I'm going to play queen f5, queen takes
Right.
e5.
Queen f5, queen takes e5.
And you don't have rook e8. That's the big problem.
That's a very, very
Well,
important
I-
defensive.
No, I don't have, yeah.
Whoa.
Well, you do have, but you're giving up the exchange, and then your pieces on the queen side are so bad.
Exactly. So queen f5, and I will probably, and unfortunately, have to play rook e8. Vasily left the game, left the board. I think he just
Well,
had
he's
some bad
said something,
dinner.
bad dinner, whatever's happened.
And
Maybe
he
he's feeling
apologized to his opponent for his absence.
Yes.
So this move, queen f5,
Was played on the
was
board. Was played on the board.
and rook e8.
Which is forced because queen takes e5,
E5
queen
would-
e7 is a huge threat.
And well, Magnus is 1 pawn back for the. He had
Yes.
sacrificed 2.
So knight f6 was probably a mistake then.
Yes, badly timed. And after
Badly-
king takes,
big-
we have c5 on the board.
c5, right?
c5, b5,
b5.
bishop d3, f6. I think the position is correct right now, is updated.
Okay. Well,
Okay, king.
we're more unpredictable. It doesn't even come close. But this game has turned around in to Magnus's favor.
Absolutely.
I mean, black's pieces, the bishop on c8, rook on a8, are not getting into the game anytime soon.
Can you
And
just go king e...
king e2
kings- Yeah, king e2.
to bring the rook.
King e2
in-
was played on the board, and we have
Okay.
the updated board on the screen. King e2, king f7 was played, and I believe perhaps maybe an idea to bring the rook on the third rank, h4, rook h1, rook h3, rook
Nice.
g3.
And indeed, rook h1 was
Was
played, yes, just as you prescribed, with the idea of activating the rook.
Or-
Either way, or king f1.
King f1,
King
yes.
F1.
I
Yes.
like king f1 actually as a better choice. King f1 and rook g1, the rook was going to be there in a hurry.
Queen g's...
Queen
Queen
g6
g6?
is going to be met, I think, by queen f3, and the bishop has a discovered attack against the queen.
Right.
And
But
we have
otherwise
that.
my bishop is...
And
my rook-
Magnus is now taking over. Rook b8 got thrown into the mix as well. I think it was rook b8.
The
king
problem is
f1.
that after rook g1, you don't have counterplay with b4, because bishop c4 is coming with check. And bishop a6 was played on the board, but right now the d7 pawn is weak. So I could potentially essay the move queen to f5.
I love queen
Yep,
f5.
Queen f5, put it...
Yes.
That was
and-
played, but the engine doesn't like it.
Well, I like it.
Very-
I
very
mean, posting
human,
up.
very human, it's very
I
good.
think there was something to be said for queen g4,
Yeah.
eyeballing the g8 square as well.
The
But-
question is, what about queen c1? Where are you? I think you're forced to play
Rook
the
d8.
move king e2.
King e2.
And
then queen
the
b-
question is, what happens after queen takes g1? Queen c1, king e2, queen takes g1. I think that's what MVL is calculating right now.
And we have an update.
So we have a draw. We have a draw between Wesley So and Vladimir Kramnik. So again,
will-
Wesley slowing down somewhat. So if Magnus can win this, he will extend his lead
Magnus
to 1
on
point.
5 seconds for...
No.
Yeah, he's on 6
Ooh,
seconds.
And the position, again, lots of topsy-turvy chess being played in this game. And after queen g4, eyeballing the d7 pawn with check, bishop c8 to defend, and king g2, and Magnus's king is nice and safe. And Magnus has very unpleasant bind in the position. And
Oh,
we've just seen a trade, and h7 pawn got lopped off. Rook e5.
but now the
The
bishop.
players are blitzing, and rook f4. Okay. The play has been bishop takes d5.
And Nate is threatened,
No,
so
this
he
is
has
just
to drop back.
this
Over.
is game over.
Absolutely game over.
Yeah, the king will just walk.
The position is paralyzed. Black's position is simply paralyzed, and I'm going to
Trade rooks.
rook
or-
g7, attack the pawn on d7, or rook f7, rook f8. Oh, sorry, rook
Yes.
f7, rook f6. Yeah.
And
This
Magnus is
easy,
real. Yes,
easy
now
game.
it's
Even
now it's easy with king c5 and rook a7 on tap.
Rook a7, rook a8, d7, and
Yeah.
that's just game over.
Yes.
yeah, and indeed MVL has resigned. So Magnus extended his lead with that bizarre,
my
bizarre
goodness.
opening. But okay, it paid off. It
I'm-
paid off after knight f6. You know, MVL had a tactical oversight. So
That was one of the most bizarre blitz games I've ever seen. That was just crazy. What was Magnus doing? And then it worked out like a dream.
yeah,
Everything came together for him.
yeah, it was a very. He banked everything on this d6 pawn and the clamping effect it had, and then of course knight f6. That was the.
It's too bizarre.
It is bizarre, but okay.
Let's see how that affected our standings, because I believe that Magnus has now a point
Yes,
in
he's a
in the
full
lead.
point ahead.
Oh my goodness. Christian, what just happened? What did we just witness?
No, absolutely monstrous performance by the world champion. He's dominating his opponents, even in worst position. We've seen him sacrifice 2 pawns out of the blue and then simply just dominate the bishop on c8 with that pawn on d6, very powerful pawn on d6, and he's taking risks. Wesley So, on the other hand, he's playing once again very conservative chess, and that's a big problem for him because he's not scoring points. And Magnus is slowly taking control over this tournament. This is just looks like a cakewalk right now for Magnus. He's slowly picking up the pace, and he's 1 full point ahead of Wesley So, who's having a very difficult next round against MVL.
Joey, this is where we stand.
No, exactly, and this was a very critical round for us because, of course, MVL was chasing the pack on third place, and he's now quite a way behind. He's 3 points behind with 18 points. Wow, we're going to go to Leuven with Maurice, and well, we'll have the world champion explain his game for us. See you there.
We are with world champion Magnus Carlsen. Magnus, this was one of the more traditional games we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Well, not quite. I mean, you played like a man possessed. Like you were certainly bent on winning this game. Tell us about these moves you were playing. E4, Rook G7. You had this incredible kind of chess.
Yeah, so I burned my bridges pretty early on, so I just had to keep going. Yeah, I mean, with his lack of development, material doesn't really matter that much. So I just try to, you know, play as aggressively as possible.
When you were in the middle of the game and you see the kind of position that's so weird, his knights are maneuvering all over the place, did you actually feel like this is strange? Because we were looking at it saying, Yasser actually said it's one of the most bizarre blitz games he's ever seen.
Yeah, no, it was nothing. It's not very similar to anything I've seen, but I mean, at least there was one theme that I was always playing for, this pawn on d6. I mean, without this, there's no point in my play at all.
All right, well, thanks for entertaining us, and I know you need your rest.
Thank you.
Good luck in your next game.